Hey guys, I'm super excited to start this. This is something huge and I've been really working towards and truly wanting to start. And this is my own way of talking to you guys and truly just spreading the word as much as possible. Now, living truth in troubled times is going to be mainly about just, reading the Bible together and just working through it as Christians and how we should, go about solving problems or just living life in general. It's just a certain way that I can keep myself accountable and also help people who might be struggling to keep themselves accountable. It's a way that I can connect with others without being able to truly reach them. Now, I'm super excited about this because this is a way that I can, be at home, but also grow my faith, including growing your guys' faith and helping you guys with that without being able to meet you in person. This is a great opportunity for me to also, continue my evangelism and to, take a step further and maybe even go like start recording other people and going out to, campuses and truly getting questions that some of you might have that I might not be able to answer because I don't really know you. But through that and through their questions, I can, take it here and you guys can learn. And this is just going to be a whole page based off of just learning with Christ together and as one and as a group so we could just all grow. And truly, the real goal is by next week, I'm going to be going over like a set of verses and a set of chapters, together so that we can just walk along the path. And that's actually going to be up to you guys. After this, we're going to choose a book to go through and just read through it together week by week. But first off, I really just want to let you guys know more about me and just know about my life. So it's just not like a brick wall in front of us, but no, it's actually just a transparency. And so you guys know, because I'm not perfect. I wish I was, but sadly I'm not. So I really just want to start with my testimony. So, I was born into a household full of Christians. Very lucky that I had that in my life. My mom was strong in faith. My grandma and grandpa are super strong in faith. They're just big representations to me in how I should walk and live and how I should someday raise a family. But I won't say I really lived my faith out until about fifth grade. I decided, I'm going to take a step forward and I'm going to, get baptized. And in the moment, I thought that this is how I get saved. Like after I get baptized, boom, it's over. I'm done. I'm going to be saved forever. I can do whatever now as long as I just believe in God and know what He's about. But in reality, it's not true. I find out later is that, as a couple years later in my life, I'm just living in sin, and I lived a lukewarm life, as many people would call it. I used to believe that I would be saved just by believing in Him and being baptized. And I lived a sinful life. I lived in lust. I lived in hatred. I lived in so many just cruel, sinful ways, and just thinking that I could still go to heaven just by believing. And I truly just hate the thought of lukewarmness because it's a blinding thing that people don't realize is truly taking them down. It's tearing them down without them knowing. Because I used to believe I was saved. In reality, I wasn't. In reality, if I would have died that day, I probably wouldn't be in heaven because I tended to the flesh every day without tending to the spirit and actually caring about the personal relationship with my Lord and Savior. Well, actually, a couple years later, then I think it was going into sophomore year, freshman summer. So I was about to be a sophomore, and I went to church camp again. This is the first time in a couple years, and I was just excited to go. Right, in my church, we had a couple months where we didn't have a pastor. We had a transition. We had these super fun pastors that I enjoyed a lot, but they actually had me going to church for fun and not for God. And I thought that was what church was, and it was just there to have fun. And they left. It actually kind of made me sad. So I didn't go to church for a couple of months. It was a really dark time in my life. My freshman year was not a really good example of being a Christ follower, even though I said I was. Then I decided, to take a step, and I was like, okay, I'll go to camp. Why not? And there's this new pastor. His name's Pastor Sam. He's a great guy, and I met him, and I was like, it's a new guy. He probably won't be here that long. We just had another pastor here. He was just replacing him. I don't think he'll be here that long, right? I didn't think of him as a pastor in my life, somebody who would actually move me. And I went to camp, and he just helped me in so many ways. And I want to be like him in a lot of ways. I want to be that person to other people. This is what really led me to make this account is that to have somebody like him, and if I can be that to others, I'd be so big in my life. Because I lived a lukewarm life, but he showed me. He was like, dude, like, you're not living the life of the Spirit. You're not living for God at all. Like, he just, by him walking, he didn't even say that to me directly, but by him living out every day, I learned that that's not how I should be living. I learned that this is the way I should be living. I'm over here. I'm way out the park. I'm like not even close. But he was just there for me as an example. And then after camp, he kept working with me. He kept talking to me. He was friendly. He bore so much fruit. I didn't even know what the fruits of the Spirit were. But looking at him, looking back at that now, I'm like, wow, Pastor Sam, dude, like that guy, he has fruit in his life. And he does it still to this day, even though he's not around me anymore. It's not like he's passed away. No, I just moved away. He's still that person in many other people's lives, and he's still that person in my life. And so then from that point on, I started walking the faith. Sophomore year, I was like, okay, this is the time. I went to youth conferences. I really started to take a step in my faith and truly devote my life to Christ. Devoting life to Christ is taking every day to tend to the Spirit instead of tending to the flesh. To make an attempt. I say attempt because that's important. Because you're not going to be perfect. You're not going to tend to the Spirit every day. You're not going to actually do it, because in reality, you're going to fail. It's sad. I fail. We're all sinners. It sucks. But it's the attempt to tend to the Spirit every day. It's the attempt to live for Christ every day and walk his steps. That's how we devote our lives to Christ. And that's when I realized I need to start doing this. And that's when I did. I really did start doing that. And I was going strong. I was going very strong. And then I actually tripped. I moved away. I left I used to live in Wisconsin, and I tripped. I just lost it all because it was just a rough time in my life. I left all my friends behind. I had nobody here. I played football here and in Arkansas where I moved to. But so I moved in the summer. I had nobody. I came home every day after football practice, and I sat at home. I did nothing. And the only person I had to lean on at times, I wasn't very strong in my relationship with Christ just then. The only time I would relate to somebody at times, maybe a couple of days a week, I would go to God. And I would be happy. But that wasn't an everyday thing for me. I wasn't that far in my relationship. I wasn't that devoted yet every day. I wasn't that, I guess, experienced in walking my faith. So I went to a rough patch. I fell into, just trying to do other things. I went to like one party, and obviously I'm not a big partier for reasons, because there are festering sin at parties. So I try to stay away. But I ended up going to one because I was like, dude, I don't know anyone. I'm lost. I have no one here. My best friends are in Wisconsin. I'm stuck in Arkansas with no one. It's a very rough patch in my life. But luckily I had some people here who picked me up, and they're like, yo, I got you. And they're one of my best buddies now. And I'm starting to walk faith with them a lot. And actually how I became wanting to become an evangelist was actually recently, over the summer. Um, I met this guy. He's a teacher at my school. He knows who he is. He's a great discipleship leader, and he started showing me just like how to elevate myself every day. Pastor Sam showed me how to walk, and he didn't have the opportunity to really show me how to take those steps into leadership. But I felt called to God in the beginning of the summer that I'm going to start taking a role of disciple to leading others and discipling others. And my discipleship leader now was a big step in that. He showed me the ways. He showed me how I should read. He showed me truly how to deep dive, and that I should be deep diving. To lead others, I have to be at a higher level, trying to be better every day so I can bring others up with me. I can't be at the same level, because then I'm going to be just as confused. So I hit the book. I learned that this Bible, this right here, is more than just words. And I found this out myself. And this is where we're at now in life. It's just how I've come to walk with Christ. Is I've realized that it's not a master and servant. It's a personal relationship with somebody who wants to grow with you. The Lord wants to grow with me, and I realized that. And I realized that this is his way of telling me his story. He knows everything about me, but I didn't know anything about him. But this is his way of telling me. This is the way I can grow with him. And I grew with him through prayer. I grew with him through, just meditating and sitting with him and just, listening to worship music. Everything in my life I tempt to be of Christ. What I listen to, everything. Like, honestly, everything. The way I talk. And it's just, there's been a turnaround in my life over the last 2 years. And I think it's important to think about is, in your life, are you seeing a change? Because if you're not seeing a difference, then you're not tending to your spirit. God says, well, actually, I'm pretty sure John says that you will be different from others once you start to follow Christ. When you truly tend to the Spirit and walk with him every day, Jesus was different than everyone else. He looked different. When people looked in the crowd, he stood out. So when you start to follow Christ and devote your life to him, you should start to stand out. And I've found that when I start to do that, I do. I look different every month. Every couple months, I look back and I'm like, wow, I took the step in this area of my life. And now I look at myself now, I'm like, okay, I need to improve on this. And I hope the next couple months I grow in that. And I continue to just stack up and grow and grow and grow and grow. Because I truly think that the main goal of our life is to be like Jesus in a way that we grow so close to God. And it's so, so hard to achieve. It's basically impossible. But I think that's what Jesus truly walked for, is to show us the true goal is to have that personal relationship with God. And by growing that personal relationship, you take away sin, because we all know that the only difference between us and God is sin. And that's what separates us. But I think that's what Jesus showed us, is that the closer we get to him, the more sin is taken out. And he walked that perfect life, that perfect synchronization and personal relationship with God. And I think that's what he wanted to do. And that's what I want to strive for every day. I abide in the Lord to grow with him and to just be better spiritually. And that's my true goal. And that's the goal of this. That's my goal of bringing others with me, bringing others who are lukewarm, bringing others who don't know the word, bringing others who are might be, strong in faith, but just want to grow too. Everyone, this is meant for everyone. Any person on this planet, I hope, can watch this and enjoy. Because there's no single person that this is against. This is for every single person to watch. I invite everyone. So what I really wanted to do now is, just transition into more of a Bible aspect, which is going to mainly be this next couple of weeks and every Monday, is just to, have some insight. Now you had on my personal life and my testimony, but just more of an insight on my, what I believe in and, my favorite verses. So I had a couple of verses down, which are very important to my life every day. This is what I really want to end on. So the first one, it's Mark 10:27, which is actually on my body. It's tattooed on my body, and it's very important to me. And Mark 10:27 specifically states, "But Jesus looked at them and said, 'With men it is impossible, but not with God, for with God all things are possible.'" I really want to talk about this specifically because a lot of people think about Philippians 4:13, and they think of it as a fleshly, worldly desire that he can get from God. But no, that's not what I expect from God. I actually am expecting to get a spiritual battle won. I understand that I can't win without God. When I look at that verse, I look at it as the spiritual temptations and the spiritual battles I go through every day, and the temptations I am brought with and the sins that I'm brought with cannot be won without God. With me growing closer to him, that's how sin's taken away, going back to before. So through him, I can win any battle. Through God, I can take a step away from sin, and he can fight that battle. In many ways, you can think about many sins like that. Lust is a perfect example. Don't fight that sin. Let God do it for you. He's won that battle in your life. He has won that battle. Just sit back. Believe in him. Have trust in the Lord that he will win that battle for you, and just run. Run to him. That's what I think about that verse and why it's so important to me. The next verse I want to go to is John 1:1. And many of you might know this. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. I think this is also very important to think about because it just shows how important our Bibles are. Before I was talking about, it's a way that God tells us his personal relationship with us, his story, his paths, his commandments, everything he wants us to know about him is in there. And why it's so important for us to read. Why it's so important for us to just dive deep into and understand. And truly don't read it just to read, just to know of God, but to read it to know God on a personal level. To read it to truly abide in him and get to know him more. Because he already knows us. He loves us so much. So it's a way that we can learn to love him more. And so the last one I really want to go into, it's in Galatians 5. It's actually multiple. So Galatians 16 through 26. I'm not going to read all of it, but I'm just going to summarize most of it. I'm going to read the beginning. I say then, walk in the Spirit, and you shall not fulfill the lust of the flesh. For the flesh lusts against the Spirit, and the Spirit against the flesh. And these are contrary to one another, so that you do not do the things you wish. But if you are led by the Spirit, you are not under the law. And then Paul actually continues to go into the works of the flesh and the works of the Spirit, which are the fruits of the Spirit. And I think this is very important to know because you can self-reflect on this a lot. Are you living in the works of the flesh where he talks about lust, adultery, and many more? I could read on. There's so much in that. Galatians 5:17 through 25 is amazing to read through, just to have self-reflection. It just shows, are you living in the flesh or am I living in the Spirit? Do I have patience, love, kindness, joy? Am I living in the fruits of the Spirit? Am I living in the works of the flesh? It's important to know that. It's important to also see that in others. Do I look at somebody and do I see fruits of the Spirit? Do I see them bearing fruit or do I see them bearing works of the flesh? And how can I help them if they are in the works of the flesh start to bear fruit? Because we're not just here to live ourselves and be selfish with our faith, which I think it's important at times to just work on your own faith. But once you get to a point, it starts to work on others and help others. Reap what's been sown or sown what hasn't been sown yet. And plant the word in others so that they start to bear fruit and they start to grow with the Lord. That's why I think it's so important that I'm doing this and that others are doing this. And I can, every day I walk somewhere, I can see somebody that I can sow a seed or I can reap what's been sown. I ask myself that. And I don't do it enough, quite frankly. And that's why I try every day. I try, and I try. And that's the most important thing because you might be the only Bible that someone reads. I know everyone says that a lot, but it's important to think of that. How do you represent yourself? Are you representing the fruits of the Spirit or are you representing the works of the flesh? Now, finishing this off, I'm so thankful for you guys getting to this point and watching this far. I'm just truly grateful for that, and it's very important to me, and I can't appreciate it enough of you getting this far. But what I wanted to just finish off with is, so continuing on from this point, we're going to start reading a book together. It's probably going to be about 3 to 4 chapters a week. And I'm going to, start off with a question and end with a question. And that question is going to lead to throughout the week. You're going to answer that and you're going to ask yourself that. I'm going to do the same. So I really just want everyone to, put in a book and a chapter. And we'll probably go around those chapters. We'll probably do 2 or 3. So, if you're seeing this and you want to read a certain book or chapters of a book, put it in the comments and, we will start that. And we will truly just dive deep into it and, grow with the word. And I will choose one and, next week we will start to read with that. And I'll actually post it on my TikTok, which one we're going to go over once I find somebody who actually is choosing a specific book and chapters to go over. And we will just, read about it. I'll go over some of the biggest points, why it's important for us to do certain things, what it's telling us, and just questions to ask yourself. what can we take from that chapter and put it into our lives? And how can we implicate that into our lives? So again, I just want to thank you guys for watching. This is super important to me and super important to everyone in my life, and to you guys especially for watching. I think it's a way that you can grow every day, and I'm glad that you're watching this. It's a way that I keep myself accountable and you keep yourself accountable. It's a two-way street, working on this together. And thank you again for watching.